You've been lied to. That minimum payment on your statement isn't a safety net. It's a psychological anchor deliberately placed to hijack your brain. When you see that number, you unconsciously pay far less than you would without it. They're not helping you pay off debt. They're programming you to stretch it over decades, while compound interest works silently against you. It's not a courtesy, it's a trap. Welcome to Finance Channel, where we unpack the psychology behind your money decisions. The studies, the patterns, the quiet traps. If you've ever wondered why you do what you do with money, you're in the right place. Think back to your last payment. If you paid the minimum, or even a little more, feeling proud, that was the trap engaging. That number wasn't a safety net. It was an anchor set to make your efforts feel sufficient while silently stretching your debt for decades. The trap was laid long before you opened the envelope. You know the ritual. The envelope lands, you see the logo, your name. You don't open it. You let it sit, small and heavy. When you finally do, your eyes skip the balance. They find the minimum payment instantly. That tiny number whispers, just this much, you're okay. It's a lie your brain is primed to believe. You scan the statement. There it is, $150, manageable. A quiet exhale escapes your lips. That fleeting relief, it's the sound of a trap locking into place, one you won't feel for years. Your brain latches onto that number, mistaking it for safety. And just like that, the cage door clicks shut. You just don't hear it yet. That minimum payment on your statement is not a random number. It's a psychological anchor, deliberately placed to hijack your internal calculator. Every time you see it, your brain recalibrates, making even a larger payment feel generous, while the real cost compounds silently. You never noticed it was steering you all along. Your brain has a glitch. Show it a number, any number, and it will use that as a reference point for every decision that follows, even when that number is meaningless. Psychologists call this anchoring. It's why the minimum payment hijacks your judgment, making any extra payment feel generous, even when it barely dents the debt. Imagine you're asked to spin a wheel. It's rigged to land on either 10 or 65. Then you're asked, what percentage of African nations are in the UN? If you saw 10, you'd guess around 25%. If you saw 65, you'd guess 45%. A completely random number just hijacked your judgment. That's anchoring. And it doesn't stay in the lab. That $150 minimum your brain latches onto instantly. It becomes the magnetic center. Even when you decide to pay more, you're still orbiting it. Paying $300 feels generous. Paying $800, that feels unnatural, almost wrong. Without a deliberate mental override, you won't stray far. The anchor holds you in its gravity. But here's the dark twist. When you pat yourself on the back for paying $350, double the minimum, the anchor has secretly made that number feel like a massive sacrifice. Without the minimum printed there, you might have instinctively aimed for $800 or $1, $200. You feel virtuous. The bank is already calculating the extra interest you just locked in. They don't guess. That minimum payment is engineered from thousands of A/B tests, eye-tracking heat maps of your gaze on the bill, even fMRI brain scans mapping your anxiety response. They pinpoint the exact number that feels small enough to keep you compliant, but large enough to stretch interest payments across decades before you finally break. This isn't banking, it's weaponized psychology. Pay in full and they earn nothing, so they need you to be a revolver. The minimum payment is engineered to keep you barely shaving the principal, stretching repayment into decades of compounding interest. Your debt becomes a quiet annuity, a dark, silent stream of profit flowing from your anchored mind to their bottom line. Decades ago, your minimum payment was 5% of the balance. Then banks lowered it to 2%, even 1% plus fees. They turned a months-long repayment into decades of profit. That tiny sum isn't a safety net. It's an anchor, deliberately set to maximize interest while you barely chip away at the debt. Soon, that $150 floor doesn't feel like a suggestion. It feels like the bill. You budget around it. Paying extra becomes a moral victory, a bonus, not the bare minimum. The anchor has rewired your frame. You've stopped asking the dangerous question, is this floor actually the ceiling of a trap? Imagine the bill sits on your kitchen table. $6,000 balance. Minimum due, $150. You refuse to be a sucker. You'll send $350, well over double. A small swell of confidence. I'm on top of this. You have no idea that the $150 has already poisoned your frame of reference. The trap is primed. because that minimum sits at $150. Paying $350 feels like an act of discipline, almost heroic. But if that anchor were gone, your mind might have lunged toward $800, maybe $1, $200. The number you see doesn't just suggest a starting point, it quietly installs a ceiling you never think to shatter. At 20% APR, a $350 minimum stretches a $6,000 debt into almost 2 years of payments, costing you over $1, $200 in interest. Pay $800? You're free in 9 months with just $400 in interest. Push to $1, $200, and it vanishes in 6 months, costing less than $200. That anchor didn't just hold your money, it stole months of your life and thousands of dollars. You pay $350 and feel it, that warm, self-congratulatory glow. You tell yourself you're being responsible, maybe even ahead of the game. That feeling isn't progress, it's a sedative. The bank needs you to feel virtuous, so you never stop to calculate whether your extra payment is actually breaking the chain. Banks have the data. They know that with a $150 minimum, the masses who pay a little extra cluster between $250 and $400. Almost no one jumps to $600 or $1,000. Your predictable psychology is priced in. They set the anchor, watch you cluster, and harvest the interest. It's not a bug, it's the business model. Imagine a $6,000 balance at 20% interest. The minimum payment whispers $150. So you pay it, and pay it, for over 20 years. You'll end up handing the bank more than $9,000 in pure interest, buying that original debt again and again. They engineered that anchor to own decades of your future. Every dime of your labor skimmed into their vault. Every month you pay less than the full balance. Interest doesn't just grow, it feeds. That generous $350, it's a meal, not a kill shot. The minimum payment anchor keeps the beast chained to your back, gorging on the gap between what you pay and what you could have paid, year after bloated year. The anchor doesn't just empty your wallet, it hollows out your peace. That balance barely moves, month after month, seeding a low-grade anxiety you can't name. Guilt settles in, then learned helplessness. You stop believing you'll ever be free. That hopelessness is not a bug, it's the bank's most powerful retention tool. You look around and see everyone carrying a balance. It feels normal. That's the cultural anchor. The minimum payment whispers that this debt isn't an emergency, just a manageable monthly bill. When society treats a $150 payment as the standard, the urgency to escape vanishes. The bank swims silently in that culture, feeding on your calm. If you pay $350 instead of the minimum, you've just decorated your cell. The bars remain. The feeling of virtue is wallpaper. The bank doesn't care you feel noble while serving your 22-month sentence. It only cares that you serve it. You're not free, just a prisoner with a more comfortable cell. When you click submit on that $350 minimum, your brain rewards you. A small dopamine hit. You feel accomplished, like a responsible adult. But that neural case closed signal is a trap. It sedates the analytical part of your mind, stopping you from doing the painful math that would reveal decades of debt. Regulators force banks to cover interest in a sliver of principal to prevent debt that never ends. But banks tune that sliver perfectly, just enough to keep your account in good standing, just little enough to stretch your payoff for decades. It's a tightrope between compliance and maximizing your agony. And it doesn't stop with credit cards. That $199 a month car loan, the $49 a month sofa, a mortgage pre-approved at exactly $1,200. These aren't random numbers. They're anchors, planted to make the monthly payment feel like the only question. They lock you into decades of payments, reframing your financial identity around a false sense of what you can afford, while the total cost silently balloons. Months pass. That $150 minimum isn't just printed on the bill anymore. It's etched into your thinking. You pay $160 and feel a surge of restraint. But the bank dictated that baseline. Your goal, your ambition, your small victory, all calibrated by them. You've become the anchor and you've forgotten who tied the rope. Here's what chills the blood. Even when you try to escape, that minimum payment doesn't vanish. It burrows inside your head. Unless you rip out the entire logic, saying, I pay $1,000, period. The ghost of their anchor silently caps your ambition every single month. The line between your free will and their design dissolves. You start policing yourself for them. So here's what you do. Stop looking at that box entirely. Decide your own number, $800, $1, 000, based on your budget and a merciless deadline, your timeline, not theirs. The statement's suggestion becomes static, irrelevant noise. You write the figure, you set the anchor now. Here's how you starve the anchor. Pick a percentage you can sustain, say 10 or 15% of your statement balance. On a $6,000 debt, that's $600 or $900, not their pathetic $150. Your payment scales with the debt, not their suggestion. Every month, the anchor loses its power. You've seized back the reference point. A credit card at 20% interest isn't a bill, it's a fire. You wouldn't toss a single glass of water onto a house fire and walk away. That minimum payment, that's the glass. Every month, this debt survives. It's spreading. Treat it like the emergency it is. Attack it with everything you have before the whole structure burns down. Now flip the script. Aggressively attack that same $6,000 in 6 months, not 2 years. The mental fog lifts. No more calculating minimums. No more quiet dread. Your credit line shifts back into a tool, one you control. Breaking the anchor doesn't just save you money, it returns the sense of agency debt has been quietly stealing. Have you ever looked back and realized the minimum payment was silently setting your ambition ceiling? Share the moment you caught the anchor whispering in your ear. I read every single one of those stories, and they never failed to remind me how deeply this hidden trap is woven into our lives. Your pre-approved credit limit, the recommended mortgage amount, they're not boundaries, they're traps. Every number placed in your path is designed to frame your thinking, to anchor you to their benefit. Start asking one question: who benefits from this number? That single question is your mental shield against every anchor engineered to cost you. That number on your bill, the one circled in polite type, was never a helping hand. It's a leash, meticulously calibrated to keep you in debt while multiplying what you pay in interest year after year. Every time you pay a bit more, you're not fighting the system. You're just pulling gently on the leash, letting it dig deeper into your future. Now you know. The only thing left to ask is, will you keep straining against a grip designed to never let go? If this gave you a new lens on your own money behavior, consider subscribing. There's a new one every Tuesday and Friday. Share it with someone you'd want to talk this through with. And as always, the work isn't in earning more. It's in understanding why you spend the way you do.